guess you lose some and win some. Long as the outcome is income.
Wow, what is good, my fellow entrepreneurs? I can hardly believe that we are already at episode 7 of the Outcome is Income podcast. On this episode, we are joined by our good friends over at the Auction Buyers Club, Jay and Piotr. In this episode, we discuss some extremely serious topics: business progression, building partnerships, accountability. It's all in there. Even the positives and negatives of spending more time with Piotr than your wife. Now, listen in and understand how this shady duo have built a cabal of property investors that meet weekly in a shadowy pub in London to decide the fate of UK property.
So, Jay, Piotr, lovely to have you guys. Welcome to the Outcome is Income podcast. So, yeah, we're really excited to have you guys on.
Nice one. Thanks for having us, guys. Love the name
worries.
of the podcast, Outcome is Income. It's a bit of a...
So we will come on to that. We will come on to that in the end as well. So we will be asking a question about that. So thanks for giving up some of your time today. So I've known you guys for quite a long time as well. Obviously, you guys are masters of the auction world, the auction duo, the property insiders, the auction insider, whatever you want to call it. But you guys are obviously experienced in auctions. But I guess today, let's kind of just talk a bit about your kind of entrepreneurial journey, because I know Jay came from a background of being employed to kind of, get into the self-employed and entrepreneurial world. And obviously, Piotr, I know you've always been a hustler at heart as well and an entrepreneur. So, yeah, I guess, Piotr, do you want to kind of just talk us kind of through, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur kind of in the early days?
Yeah, sure. I mean, number one thing, I didn't decide to be an entrepreneur. I just decided I didn't want to work for corporations, and I wanted to, like, whenever I would have a job, like, I didn't mind having a job, but I always wanted to that job to provide me with skills that I can use for life. And so whenever I was doing something, like after uni, I graduated first class honors. All my friends went from uni, went to banks, corporations. I didn't even apply to any of those jobs. I knew I wanted to go to work for a small company and start kind of learning sales skills, marketing skills, how business works, and from the ground rather than from like a big kind of corporate position. And kind of slowly, everything was like a step-by-step transition. I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I met someone who offered me a job in property, and then from there, it kind of like one thing to another. I'm here, basically.
Amazing how things work out. And Jay?
So I've my career has been dualistic. So I've always worked either in a state agency for family and wealth management, in auctions more recently, but I've always invested or had a hustle, as they call it these days, along the side. So I've always been a little bit out there with some of the stuff that I've done.
Cool. I guess, so that's kind of the start and where you guys are going to. What did you guys start off with a vision? Did you have any kind of idea as to where you wanted to get to? Or was it just a case of, let's just get this stuff started, let's see where we get to, so let it kind of organically grow? So what kind of, for you, Piotr, anyway, did you have any kind of vision or any thought process as to where you wanted this all to go?
So for me, it was basically, it was always a matter of what can I do to pay the bills, and what can I do that pays the bills that also gets me to like the next step, which is like doing deals, making kind of bigger, building the wealth for the future. Like, it's not only about learning skills. I like learning skills, but I also like making income, and I like making this income bigger. So it was all fairly organic. I remember I started the property business from like trying to find owners of abandoned properties in Islington, and then basically tell them we want to buy them, and then find someone to buy that property, and then basically make commission. And that's basically what I was doing, and I was pretty successful at that, because I pretty much got 2 pubs that were completely empty for years under offer, and there were it was 1.8 million purchase price for both of them. And that was literally just from walking around the streets and finding owners, and then speaking with them, and then chatting with them. I mean, both transactions fell through, but just agreeing them and getting buyers and sellers to the table was quite a success. Yeah, and I was making money in other ways as well in terms of property, but that was my start, and then things progressed more and more towards auctions, basically.
Love that, love that. And I think so. So from your perspective, that kind of it was a necessity. So you had to survive, you had to live, and that's what made you kind of thrive in a way. So
Yeah,
that
it
really
was a
good.
necessity. It was a necessity because of my choice, because I could have gone to work for companies and corporations, but it was a necessity from like making the income in different ways than traditional.
Cool. Yeah, a necessity of choice, I guess, realistically, but also from your perspective, it's I, I guess it's making yourself uncomfortable in order to be able to get comfortable, right? So it's kind of that whole old age of taking 2-3 steps back in order to take 5-6 steps forward, really.
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely, and it's like it's being. I guess for me, it was being maybe 10 steps behind all of my friends from uni for like about 6 or 7 years, because the business doesn't bring a lot of income initially. It's a bit of an investment, and it might not bring more income that you would earn in a job ever, but it's the kind of thing that the risk that you want to take because. At the end of the day, I want that freedom of doing the things that the way that I want to be doing things and living whatever I want to be living. And for that, you need to take some risks.
agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point actually, because I think that's something that I've sort of seen in my own journey realistically, where you potentially, so you finish university and you see your friends sort of seem to take these bigger jumps forward where they go into the corporate world, where they start on these sort of, I don't know, they might come in on like a 30, 40, 50k salary, whatever that might be. But in order to really like catapult yourself, as you say, Piotr, it's more about taking those couple of steps back and forcing yourself in at the deep end because of the potential upside on the future. I think that's something that I can definitely relate with, and I think a lot of sort of younger, I guess, entrepreneurs, if you will probably start to relate with that as well if they're sort of finishing up with university and their friends are going into that corporate environment.
That's right, and I'm not saying also like the corporate environment is bad. It's just like it was my natural choice not to go there, and I also like I am quite how do you say this? What's the word? Kind of like I go all in or I don't. It's like if I went like I know people who went into corporate jobs and stuff, and they're doing extremely well, and they also invest on the side and then do lots of good things. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just for me it was a personal choice, I think there's lots of ways of doing things, but
I do agree though. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are quite extreme. So it's either one extreme or another. It's all or nothing kind of thing. But entrepreneurs are risk takers at the end of the day, right? That's the kind of key, and they're comfortable with being uncomfortable. So
yeah.
And
so now
sort of
Jay
Jay
has to put up with that kind of
well,
environment I'll create.
this is where the yin and the yang comes in quite well, because this is why I loved your answer. I'm waiting for Jay's answer as to what his vision was when he got into this.
Jay's like, I have no idea what I'm doing still. Yes.
Well, I mean, I've I don't know. My answer is obviously really very different. I mean, working at the auction house, that's obviously where I met Piotr. You know, he was buying for himself, he was buying for clients, he was moving and shaking, doing all the stuff you kind of want to be doing if you want to be seen, and if you want to be transacting, and if you want to be building a reputation. Those things are important. It wasn't until he really approached me with the idea of the book, and even then I probably didn't think anything more of, oh, let's write the book. But I spent more time with Piotr that year than I did with my own wife. Right? And there's positives and negatives to that, right? The positives are we can really take the mickey out of each other. The negatives are we know too much about each other now to leave each other. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Neither one of us can leave alive, and with the other one with all the secrets. But I mean, I'd been propositioned when I was at auction house by 2 or 3 large traders to, you know, turn poacher from gamekeeper. And I was never really interested in that because it always sounded like quick, easy, big, toppy money, little responsibility, you know, all that kind of stuff didn't resonate with me in any way, shape, or form. But the way the relationship built slowly with Piotr was I'd go and speak at his auction mastery kind of classes that he was doing early days, or not that early, but before we were doing anything really. And then writing the book together, then doing Park Avenue Muse, that deal together with Rod. Then it was kind of looking at the situation we had kind of built almost accidentally, like we were just taking action, we were doing what felt right at the time, and then we just kind of thought, wow, this is we're really not taking advantage of the skill sets that combined we both have, that independently we kind of have to work a bit more for or engage with other people for. So why not kind of like put that together and leverage it and see where that goes? And that's kind of that's my perspective.
Interesting. So I guess that kind of is the kind of start, the middle, and where you guys want to go. But realistically, do you guys have any kind of end goal in mind, or do you just take it day by day? Because what I find with entrepreneurs is they either have this massive, big, hairy, audacious goal, you know, and it could be a vision, not necessarily a goal. You know, you got the Elon Musks of the world, which probably drives everyone crazy around them, because obviously they are so committed to this one goal, they'll destruct everything in their path to get to that. Or are you more kind of, you know what, we want to make a good living, we want to have a good balance, we want to enjoy time with friends, family as well, but I don't want this kind of strict, you know, destroying everything for one specific thing. So which side of the fence do you sit on, I guess, Piotr, and what is your kind of, what do you guys want to end up doing? You know, what's the end goal, if there is one?
Yeah, I think we more kind of, we take like we've got goals, so we've got like visions, but they are kind of like connected to the day-to-day activities. Like day-to-day, we sell for clients, we uh, um, work with clients. We're quite opportunistic, so basically today we might be selling things for clients. I mean that thing we do anyway. But then there's a deal, and suddenly the next 2 days we spend almost exclusively on the deal, and we work on that. So there's a lot is based on day-to-day things. We've got goals and ambitions to make kind of auctions, auction industry like much more accessible, like much educate people on how to buy and sell properties, because we see there's a lot of money being wasted in auctions and people lose a lot of money there. So that's a kind of got a bit of a mission on how to on basically improving the auction industry, and working with auctioneers and all the stakeholders kind of to make things better. So there's a vision, and then there's day-to-day things, and obviously day-to-day things are really what is most important, because we need to be generating income, we need to be doing things, and also with this mission, like we've got we need to do things a certain way, because there are lots of people in the industry that do things in ways that are questionable. They make income, they make money, but those things are questionable, and then other people suffer and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things to it. I think we've got a vision, long-term vision, but it's the short-term things that build and are fundamental to the bigger vision. So I think until we get to certain points, it's difficult to discuss the bigger goals, because they will always depend on something underpinning it.
Yeah, so you've got your long-term vision, but also you need to make sure day to day you're hustling, you're making the money to basically keep everything afloat and keep everything going. And also, I think, I mean, I've probably discussed this with Reese as well, but I think for me, if I got to a position where I exited the company and had loads and loads of money, I don't think I would still have the same drive to wake up every morning and to be able to hustle. And also, I don't think I'll enjoy that either, because you can only spend so much money beyond which you get to a point of it gets boring, right? So I think the fact that you kind of are chasing something all the time. I think that's quite appealing. And also working with your work wife, Jay, which is obviously another factor. It's good, isn't it? Working with the right people is the most important thing, right?
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
I think the part of the goals and ambitions that we have is we're not the type of, we want a £10 million property portfolio with £100,000 income. That's not how we measure our success. That's not how we measure the direction that we want to go into. That's not even in the day to day. Like, that's what we're building. It's not. Um, there is a vision of positive change that we want to see in the marketplace, as Piotr says, and I think we are focusing more on building and creating solid relationships to bring people together to create that. Whether that's starting off something small like creating the buyers club, where it's an incubator for that, whether it comes to working with the likes of David Sandeman and certain types of auctioneers that we think are reputable and good quality. All of those things start to kind of stack. But as Piotr says, you can stack that on shifting sand if there isn't an income, or there isn't daily tasks and challenges that kind of solidify that base for you to build something strong on.
It'd be interesting to understand, guys, where that sort of vision came from, in a sense of like how that evolved over time. So, Piotr, where you started in that hustler, I need to put food on the table, was that vision from a market, sort of like from an auction market perspective, was that always there, or was that something that developed over time in the field where you sort of noticed actually there's ways that we can better this?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like just the way I operate in life. And if you operate one way, and it's, I don't know, I just like when things, when you leave things better than you kind of found them initially. And that's the kind of key thing. For me, making money is like, you can always make money all sorts of ways. And I think you can make money doing something well, and you can make money doing something badly and fucking people over. So you can do both ways, but I prefer the kind of living things well and building good relationships, because that eventually it gets you to a point in life where you've built a lot of goodwill, even though you didn't build it for certain thing, like, but it's gonna be useful, right? It's a useful thing, and then there might be something else, a new mission in life. Maybe in like 20 years you will be like, yes, the planet needs something, and then suddenly like we can do it because of the way we've been doing things in the past. So it's just about building goodwill and doing good things in the world.
I think that's a really important thing to note there. Sorry, Saif, but like the fact that has evolved from a point of your internal how you operate as a person has driven your goals and ambitions in a business perspective. So it wasn't necessarily based on understanding of the industry you operate in. It's based on how you conduct yourself as a person, and that's what's sort of driven the evolution of goals. I think that's a really important little point there that I can imagine quite a lot of people could take away from. I like the sort of like making things better than you found them as well. I think that's a really interesting point, and something that a lot of the industry that we work in would benefit from.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I've noticed with Piotr and Jay over the kind of years that I've known them as well, is the way they conduct themselves personally in a non-professional environment is exactly the same way in a professional environment, on podcasts today, in meeting in person as well. So it's all kind of reflective of you as a person. And I think, in business, we do get to points where, people can be screwed over. And, I think you guys call it the sharks of the world. There are the sharks of the world. That's also a representation of them in their day-to-day life. So, I think, I always look at basically little traits or little things that people do to determine that person, what their personality is going to be like in general. So I think that's a really good point that kind of, you brought up, Piotr, and obviously Reece brought up as well. So yeah, it's good for everyone to know. Just conduct yourself in a very consistent manner, and usually the way that people conduct themselves generally all over, they can only put on a front for so long. So that's kind of going to always be their kind of true colours. And I think just coming back to your point, Jay, as well. So just kind of for a lot of our listeners as well that don't know what Auction Buyers Club is, and I know that's kind of yours and Piotr's baby as well. So do you want to kind of just give a bit of a summary, just a concise summary as to what Auction Buyers Club is, the reason you guys obviously set it up and kind of what you guys want to achieve with that over the long term as well.
So concisely, it's a group of professional property buyers, for the most part, investors, landlords, developers, that type. And it's an incubator, so it's a closed group, roughly 12 people. And what we do is every single week we review auction properties, some properties outside of auction, just applying the method of this is how you find the right kind of asset, this is how you conduct your due diligence, this is how you're going to structure the purchase, this is who you need to speak to, this is how we're going to price it, all those different types of things. It's focused on the buying side, but we also help those members sell their properties in the auction and how they structure that effectively as well. The Buyers Club was born early days in the first lockdown. Myself and Piotr, for what was it, 70 something, 57 days, something like that. We did every single day. We did a Facebook Live every single morning, rain or shine, internet or no internet. We got on, we made it happen. And we were just talking about how we work, what we do, what we're seeing, our perceptions, and just being, just how we are generally. And then some people were like, well, we'd love to learn more about how you're buying or what the selling things, how those are happening at auction. And we kind of, about a year or two prior, maybe not even 2 years prior, I mentioned to Piotr something about like the private members property club, the Pimpsy. And it was obviously the very wrong name, and it was nothing like this. It was going to be a group of, like a cabal of property investors that would meet in a shadowy pub in London upstairs and decide the fate of property in the country, which was obviously never going to happen. But we'd always thought about who are the people that we want to work with, what are the relationships that we want to have, how do we want to see that unfold, and in its very rawest form, the Auction Buyers Club is a great kind of format for that.
And like they said, it's a bit of an incubator. So like people who join the Auction Buyers Club, they join for like to learn how to analyze deals or to not make mistakes in auctions and stuff. But then we end up doing so much more business with the people who are closest to us, because it's like they know how we operate, they feel more comfortable, and they kind of are more confident about working with us and kind of listening to what we say. And that's the key thing, like about business. Like we noticed that we do way more business with people who already did business with us than having to acquire new people and work with them and then tell them how to do things and just get them comfortable with the usual things of auctions. Because the things that we work around, they're just very repetitive. Like after a year in the Auction Buyers Club, you kind of almost have seen everything, but still people, like some people have been in the Auction Buyers Club almost 2.5 years now, and they still find it super valuable because of everything that's going on. And that's what the Auction Buyers Club is about for us. It's an incubator and a business kind of generator of all sorts.
I love the word incubator as well, because, as much as we can think we're quite experienced in something, we're still relatively quite young in other parts. So as much as I thought I was great at auctions,
especially
then I joined auction. Yeah. Well, Reece, don't look at me. I've passed the 30 threshold, unfortunately, or fortunately. But I guess my point is, even though I thought I was experienced in auctions, it's when I joined Auction Buyers Club that I realised how many gaps there was, because I can sometimes be a jack of all trades. So I know, generally about a lot of things, but I don't have experience in loads of like one specific thing, for example. So it was good to be able to top up that knowledge base and all the gaps as well. So yeah, I found that really, really useful. And you don't know what you don't know until you figure out that you don't know it. Yeah, get your head around that one. So this kind of leads us on to our kind of next part. We're going to ask a few questions. Now, these might be uncomfortable questions, but that's what it's designed for. It's designed to make you uncomfortable, and it's designed to kind of get you thinking as well. So I'll start with Piotr.
My Wi-Fi drops.
It won't drop. It won't drop. But these are stimulating questions that sometimes you don't realise or you don't think about them, and then when you get asked them, it's like, I don't know. It's a good question. So my kind of first question for you, Piotr, is, what do you want to be remembered by or as? So, in the future, when you end up passing away, what do you want people to remember you as, or how do you want them to remember you as well?
Yeah, I think what I said before, like I want to leave things better than I found them, and basically people know that. I don't know, when they interacted with me, it kind of somehow it was memorable, and they benefited from this.
Cool, Jay. Have you had your "I've made it" moment yet?
No.
Okay.
I think I've come close a couple of times. I think it's some
Yeah,
there's
you met
was
me, and then
well, that's it. There's been one or two moments where I thought it's within my grasp, but no. But I tell you what, without just because not just because he's on the call or on the podcast, I get the feeling that I'm going to get the "I made it" moment just by having Piotr in my life. How about that? That's how you keep your other half happy. But yeah.
Brilliant. I love that. That is brilliant. And you see, this is stimulating, Piotr.
yeah.
And
He said it was going to be
so this is a
uncomfortable.
question.
I'm loving it.
Okay, that's good. I said it could be uncomfortable, not necessarily, but it could be.
Safe, you said uncomfortable, and both of us started grinning like, yeah, let's do this.
Just a testament to your character.
So this is a question for Piotr. So what are you looking forward to in the future? So it could be anything personally or professionally in the business, but yeah, just something that you're kind of looking forward to in the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's in the most immediate future. I'm looking to the wedding of one of our clients who we sold the property for today. He was so excited about this, and he's got a wedding. Like, he literally moved to Portugal 2 weeks ago, and he's getting married in Portugal, like about 10 kilometers from where I live right now. So I'm so looking forward to that. He's going to be like, this guy has got such an energy, and we just sold the property for him as well. And I'm like literally, the way he communicates with me on the message about me selling his house, it's just mind blowing. And I'm like, this is like currently the most exciting thing coming up in the next in my life, basically. And then in the future, there's so many things I'm looking forward to. Like we've got kind of really interesting plans for the business, and it's like, I know things are going fairly well in the business, but I also know they can be going like amazingly well. And this is something that I'm really looking forward to. It's that progression, natural progression.
Cool. Good answers. Thanks for that. Yeah. So Jay, from your point of view, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would have wanted me to ask you? Any specific questions?
I would have liked to ask you, I would have liked for you to have asked me how many degrees I have, just because it annoys Piotr. It's a completely useless metric and measure, but it's a really cool way to show off. Or you could have asked me
How
who's
many of
winning.
those are first class?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. The reality is I've got 3 degrees, but Piotr's is the most useful. No, safe. I would rather if you asked me who's currently winning at chess between you and Piotr.
Go on. So what's the answer to that?
I'm winning.
All right. Okay. Obviously, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't.
It's one of the very few avenues that I'm currently up.
Wow. So you have had your "I made it" moment then.
Yeah. Well, I'm not there yet. It's close, but it's not there yet.
Brilliant. So this kind of brings us to the end of the podcast. Reese, any other kind of questions that you've got for Piotr and Jay? This is your moment if you've got anything.
No, I think I'm just sort of taking out. I'm letting everything stew. I think it's just really interesting.
I have a question. Like after this, I have a question about the name of your podcast, because you said you're going to tell us more about it, and I'm still waiting.
No worries. But I think the interesting part for me here is just sort of seeing how your relationship is as sort of like a partnership, if you will, because I think that's something that just moving back to the entrepreneurial side of the discussion that we had earlier, a lot of people don't necessarily get to experienced that early on in the journey. As you described, Piotr, a lot of it was a lot like just by yourself on the street, going out and hustling. And I think it's just really awesome to see how that relationship can come together, and you ended up becoming, obviously I don't know the ins and the outs, but husband and husband.
We know husband and husband. No plans.
There is a wife involved.
We're also
Somewhere
husband and wife, just to get that clear as well.
But like the point I'm making is basically
single, just in case, like
it's just how that relationship can form and what it can sort of turn into where the attitudes are correct. It wasn't a relationship that was built necessarily in the early days on industry knowledge, or I guess maybe on Jay's side, but how those two character types work together to sort of both drive each other's vision forwards. I think that's really awesome to see that come together. And I think if there's sort of I guess anything that people can take away from your guys' experience of finding somebody to work with, I don't know if you would have any not tips on how to find somebody to work with, but it's just interesting to discuss that side of it, because as I say, it's not, people don't often find relationships like you guys have where they can fully trust the other person.
Yeah, I think for us it was just a natural kind of step-by-step thing. So obviously in the auction house London times for Jay, like I was the client and he would send me contracts and on properties that we would buy for other people, for ourselves. So there was like, you naturally kind of knew me from that. And when I was thinking about writing a book, I was like, who can I write the book with? Because I know myself. Like, I know that if I don't have someone who calls me accountable, or if I don't have a personal trainer at the gym, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to do the things. So the same with the book. Like, if I say I'm going to write the book, I would write the book. It would take me forever. And I need to have a deadline. I need to have someone to kind of work with, because then that gets me out of my head and actually doing things and making real progress. And I guess when I asked Jay and like we worked on the book, it was like 3 or 4 or 5 months of real effort to like meeting up and like doing the things, writing up the chapters, and then doing the book launch, and everything kind of worked super well. Like even we had bad days, it was like, okay, let's just go for lunch, and we just like chatted, and then suddenly things kind of started moving again. So I think it's, if you're looking to find someone, number one, you need to know yourself, what you're good at and what you're not good at, and then just basically fill the gaps with people around you. Like I know I'm not good at like just holding myself personally to account for and showing up to things where no one else knows that I need to kind of show up. But when I have people and I make things a bit more public, then I really act. So that's what kind of Jay brought to the table. And also like we just enjoyed working together. So sometimes you can start doing things with people, and if you don't enjoy it, maybe it's not the right thing. But you can test things by doing smaller projects, smaller things with people. You don't have to commit full time to finding. Like I wasn't really looking for a business partner, but it was naturally moved into that kind of thing. So
I think that's the most important point out of that whole piece, I guess. Then is that it was just an organic occurrence where there was no sort of specific let's be business partners. I guess it blossomed from that working relationship.
Definitely.
That's really interesting.
And also like I think with any partnership you need to like know what are the things that can ruin it, right? Because it's like with us, if there was an income coming into a business for like 5 months, 6 months, that would be pretty detrimental to how we can operate, how we can do things. So it's like making sure there's income coming and making sure like the like fundamental things working within a relationship, and we just make sure that things are flowing. That's the key thing. So finding the right person and then not fucking it up, basically, are the two most important things.
Well, early days in the business, that was our internal slogan. It was don't fuck it up. because like we knew how important it was to get things locked into place, and it was kind of like if you fuck it up early doors, it's so much harder to kind of grow it later on down the line. But
So true.
yeah, I think we had writing the book together. Actually, we were thinking this is going to come from two completely different voices. You know, the trader, the person that's dealing with the buyers and the sellers versus the person that's in the industry, you know, in the professional capacity. But the reality was, although there were elements that were quite opposing on the way that we saw things, they came from the same kind of place. The belief, the intention of it was the same, like how we wanted to see things, probably on more of an aspirational side of the book in terms of the advice that we were giving. And I think that was really quite important with how we resonated with each other, because you're not going to work with someone that you're diametrically opposed to on like their views on X, Y, or Z, right? So although we don't agree on every single thing, that would definitely not be healthy. The fundamentals of how we operate and how we like to see things done, that really is kind of we're very much on the same page there.
Yeah, it's those core values and the incentives are completely aligned. Yeah, that's interesting. Especially I like the point as well about like not agreeing on everything, because I think that is super healthy as well. It's a little bit strange when you have like two people that that agree on absolutely everything. And also as well, you need somebody to be your mirror, like you were saying, Piotr. You sometimes need Jay to hold you accountable. You need somebody to tell you, yeah, that was a bad call. Yeah, you did great there. I think that's super important to have as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So
how do you guys find working together?
So it's like this. So basically, what it is a lot of the time I have to say stuff, and then you have to give Safe like a couple of minutes because his brain is like quite slow. So you have to wait for him to get warm, and then he'll come around. No, to be fair, I think me and Safe work really well together because of like a few different factors, but I think a lot of it just comes from, I guess, my sort of perspective. A lot of this was built on just wanting to learn, and him being, I guess, a really great teacher or great leader in that perspective. So I think that the dynamic was always built on that sort of scenario. So my questioning would then provoke thought on his side in a sense of, well, is this right? And that's how, I guess, from my perspective anyway, the relationship sort of works in that perspective. But then, like you say as well, Piotr, like I think we're quite accountable for each other and what we do. Especially recently, we're driving a lot of things now, and I think accountability is huge for us at the moment. So
yeah, I've seen some of the key performance indicator thingies that Safe creates.
I think that the key with everything is obviously trust is an important thing. So the longer you work with each other, the more problems you've been able to solve together, where your back's against the wall and you figure out and you see how other people have solved those problems. So I'm not interested in when things are going well. I'm interested in when things are not going well and how does everyone deal with that. And I think Reese is a really good operator. So he operates very efficiently, very well, and he's quite chilled out in general. So he'll get stuff done regardless, So I think that's a real good, could be a bit of a voice of reasoning. But also, I can depend on him where I need to. And I think we kind of, we got to a stage where we kind of, everyone's interests are aligned, right? So I'm never going to sit and question, why have you not done this? Why have you not done that? I know that everything's been done for the right reasons and vice versa as well. So even if he's getting a haircut at 11 o'clock in the middle of the day, it's fine. I trust him. He knows what he's doing. I know that he's probably going to stay after the gym and finish work. It's, but no, you know what my point is. My point is we kind of trust each other, that we kind of know that either whatever happens, we've got a responsibility for the business. And the biggest thing for me, in all honesty, is when we start to scale our business, all of a sudden we've got 12 people that depend on this business for their livelihood. They're feeding their families and putting food on the table. It kind of becomes quite surreal that if you don't move things forward constantly for them and lead them and support them, these guys are not going to be able to feed their families, and you won't be able to feed your family either. So that's the kind of thing that probably wakes me up every single morning thinking, I've got a drive, I've got ambition, I need to achieve. Every single day there is a bit of a hustle culture, right? But also recently we've been looking at how do we work smarter rather than harder, and the kind of revelations that kind of people usually have. But I wanted to come back to your point about the name of the podcast. So the outcome is income. So if you want to know the reality of it, so we recently employed a marketing manager called Charlotte. She is brilliant. She really, really is. And we gave her a task of coming up with a few names. So we gave her a bit of a mood board / this is what we're looking to do. And this was one of the names that she came up with, in all honesty. However, we always wanted to create a podcast, not necessarily about property, because property can be quite repetitive and there's a lot of repetition in it. It's more about these little things that we're discussing now that are tangible enough that people can take them away, apply them in their day-to-day life, and it can be quite revolutionary. And you don't realize it, but it's small little things that people can take away. So the other thing that was most important for us is that the ultimate outcome of everything that we do, whether it's podcast, business, entrepreneurship, is there needs to be an income. And you've touched upon that really well, Piotr. So this is why this podcast is great and it resonates with us. And the title of the podcast is You Have to Be Able to Generate an Income, which kind of leads us on to our last question, which I'll ask you first, Piotr, which is what's kind of one tangible way in today's world where people listening to this could actually create an income? One kind of tip, I guess, or tangible way of doing that.
That's a good question. I think it very much depends on the stage or where someone is. Because I'm thinking even from my perspective, if I was in a position where literally there's no money and I have to come up with something quickly, quick money. I was even thinking I would just sell something that I bought 5 months ago. And then literally there's money around me. There's money that's stored in the things that I own. And I think it's just kind of selling off things that maybe you don't use anymore or you don't need them. And my sister makes pretty decent money just selling things that she gets for free on all sorts of Facebook groups. And I find it quite fascinating. It's not going to be basically creating revolutionary income in people's life, but it's just it gets you in the flow of actually making income and thinking, how can I improve something and make it better for someone, or how can I put it in front of someone who's going to pay more money for this? So I like this kind of income production because it can be scalable. The principle is scalable, and it gets you.
So it's an arbitrage opportunity, and that can be applied to property or anything of finding something in a place where you don't have many retail buyers and buying it at the right price, and then selling it in a shop window where you've got loads of retail buyers looking in on it, and it looks all shiny and new and all the rest of it, that people will be paying more for it. So
exactly,
right?
Well, it's kind of arbitrage. I mean, arbitrage is risk free. I think this isn't risk free because it's you have to take a risk that knowing that there's going to be someone else that will want that thing. And I think you touched on a really good thing, between relationship with Rice, because it's you trust each other so you can solve problems. And I think the bigger problems you can solve, the more money you produce, the more income you produce, right? And the same as with buying properties in auctions. When we run our workshop on the Auction Buyers Club, we tell people you make money by solving problems, but some problems are just not worth taking on, and some problems are worth taking on if there's enough margin in the thing. But you're still taking on a problem, and you have to solve it, and you have to put the property in front of the right person. So it's just kind of close to arbitrage, but I technically probably it's more entrepreneurial thing where you're actually taking on a risk, but you know how to position this, and then you've got people around you can trust, and then to solve those problems, and then put the property in front of the right buyer and cash in.
Perfect. And Jay, any thoughts from your end?
Yeah,
I think they can sell the Yoda thing behind him for lots of money.
Look, I think if you're looking to make money or bring income, I think providing content is a really interesting, and you see it a lot now. Even if you take outside of social media, there are YouTube multi-millionaires, right? There are the people on TikTok. They get branding, they get marketing, they get all of these other things. And I think if you are starting with yourself as a person, you have a story, you have ambition, you have drive, you want to achieve something. even if you're not there yet, this isn't fake it till you make it talk. This is the start vlogging. Start writing down what you've learned from this interaction, what you learned from talking to that agent or doing that deal or whatever it is. And then just share that with the world, because actually there's so much tangible and intangible value. Is it something that's probably going to bring you an income immediately? No, but it's one of these kind of compounding building block effects where, you know, Mr. Beast in his first year or two probably wasn't making a penny. Logan Paul or Jake Paul probably wasn't doing anything either. You know, you pull out a number of names, but then they just started prolifically doing what they sharing, trying to deliver value, sharing knowledge, and building a community. Because all of those people, that's what they do. They build a following, a community of people that want to be in their kind of ecosystem. So yeah, content to build an ecosystem is probably the greatest and more scalable ways to build, retain, and scale income.
I think that's a really good point. The content one, it's definitely something that I wish I'd done sooner, because realistically, when you have that community there, it doesn't then matter too much where you end up, because that community will stick by you as they've invested all that time and energy into following along with your journey. So even if you ended up here, they would still, you know, be interested or over there, and that then becomes your source of income. That community is your source of income. It's just how and when you choose to monetize it.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
that was a good answer, Jay. I'd say even better than mine.
God, put this in my diary, dear diary. Piotr said something nice to me today.
Hashtag winning. Hashtag
winning. Yeah. You want to know that I made it moment safe? It's happening. I can feel it.
Brilliant, guys. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think what I like about these chats is they're quite natural. This is just how we are, how we'd have a normal chat anyway. And hopefully that resonates with everyone as well. And who knows, maybe there'll be a part 2 to this. So, yeah, thank you very much, guys. And
thank you, guys.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
Nice chatting with you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Take care.
Oh, well, guess you lose some and win some. Long as the outcome is income.
Well, this is a great conversation with a great set of guys. Jay and Piotr, thank you so much for being guests on the show. Safe and I had an absolute blast recording with you guys. If you guys listening enjoyed the show, please be sure to leave us a comment, rate the podcast, let us know your thoughts. Who would you love to see us interview next, and what do you think we need to be asking? Catch you in the next one.